pronounce it correct, Alan, here?
Yeah,
I'm butchering
That's
it.
good enough.
Yeah, well, welcome, Adam. Thanks for joining us for happy hour. We're going to be live, raw and real here on Drink Up on this Wednesday, April the 2nd. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us, Adam. We were talking for the last 15 minutes, and both Adam Smith and I'm gonna call Adam C and Adam S. We're just gonna make this really easy on me, but they were talking about calculus, so we're gonna talk about calculus today and math. I'm just joking, but Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? Obviously, you look very familiar. I think you were on Shark Tank just recently, so we have a little bit of a celebrity on with us today. But maybe talk about what it is you do in your journey, and your current company, and we'll just start there.
Well, I can tell you that I'm not a celebrity, nor do I ever want to be one, because the day after our Shark Tank episode aired, it was in December, we were at the Christmas tree lot, and a kid, like a 15-year-old kid at the Christmas tree lot, recognized me, and it's about the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life. So that is not a rabbit hole I have any intention of ever going down. But we did go on Shark Tank when we were way too big to be on Shark Tank, and it was outrageously weird and fun. And
so we'll get into Shark Tank later on, because I don't know what you can share or not share. That's good.
We're a number of years detached, and I don't even own that company anymore. So yeah, let's go.
Oh, that's good. I want to get the real scoop on Shark Tank. I'm sure people are really interested. But we put on the title Bottle Keeper. That was your last company, and then you're in your current company. It's called Pentaine.
Yeah, Pentaine.
So maybe talk about Bottle Keeper and then go into Pentaine, because it's really interesting, because I think a lot of the people in our industry could probably utilize your services, by the way.
Yeah, Bottle Keeper started as a side project on Mad, which is how, it happens. Companies get started like that. My cousin Matt was sitting on the beach in Southern California, drinking a beer out of a red Solo cup. He's a little bit of a maniac in the best way possible, where he wants to drink a Corona at a specific temperature out of a bottle. And his beer's warm in 3 minutes, as happens in red Solo cups. They serve their purpose, but it's not to keep it cold. Yeah. And he's looking around and he sees people drinking out of water bottles, just like normal stainless steel water bottles, and has this idea of cutting one in half and insulating it, literally cutting up wetsuit, neoprene material, and stuffing it inside and putting his beer bottle inside. It's your classic scratch your own itch problem solution. So he does that. He hacksaws. Actually have our original prototype on the wall back here. I don't know if you can see it back here.
Yeah. Oh, can you grab it? Go ahead and grab it. Yeah. You grab it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can see in our, it's like vice grip marks on the top, the hacksaw in half, stuffed with koozie, like he just cut up, your college koozie kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Cut it in half, super glued them, or whatever kind of glue inside, and a beer bottle fit. And literally that's what the entire company was launched off of.
Oh, wow.
They got much prettier than that over the years.
But where's now? I know you sold that business, right? Where can you still get bottle keepers and stuff?
Yeah, we can. We got acquired in 2021, technically by a private equity group called WindPoint Partners, who were great. Okay. You don't often hear a lot of great stories about private equity, but they were a really good partner. They did everything they said they were going to do. It was a really positive experience. They had just 6 months before us acquired Arctic Outdoors, RTIC, and replaced the executive team, and we're taking the company in a different direction than their historical. They put a CEO in there. His name is Bill Pond. He was phenomenal. He's just an epic guy, and I learned in a very short period of time a lot from him. So we got acquired by WindPoint and Arctic, and we got put inside of WindPoint. Inside of Arctic Outdoors. So Arctic. I spent the rest, the deal closed in March of 2021. I spent the rest of the year as part of our deal as a CEO to oversee the sort of integration of our company into theirs, because they had custom everything. Like we were on Shopify and we had outsourced 3PL and we had manufacturing, all these things in different places. They had everything inside. They were much, much, much bigger.
Wow.
Much
wow.
bigger.
And is this the product you took to Shark Tank?
Yeah.
So can you? So I know we'll get into your. I just want to take a few minutes on this Shark Tank thing because you and I talked. I think it was like last week or the week before last. So you go into Shark Tank with this. Like, who were the sharks? And I guess walk us through kind of like how you got on Shark Tank, what happened during Shark Tank, and what happened after.
Yeah, I'll quickly close the loop to answer your question. You can still buy Bottle Keeper product through Arctic. So the
Okay.
company lived on for a while, and then they moved everything into Arctic. So you can buy can keepers,
Okay.
bottle keepers, and all the stuff we made at arcticoutdoors.com. I think that's the website. Shark Tank, we had someone reach out to us from their casting department in probably 2015, which was early. I mean, formally started in 2013. We shipped our first product in 2014. For frame of reference, in 2014, we did something like $130,000 in sales, all of which was in the last 3 months of the year when we had this big inflection event, which we can talk about if you want. 2015, we did about $1.8 million in sales. So we're still like small-ish. They reach out. We went through the whole process. I was very diligent with Bottle Keeper about building the company in a way that required 0 employees. And that was because my last company before that was in medical, and there were tons of employees and delivery vehicles and warehouses. And I wasn't an owner of the medical company. We spun off a health tech company that I sold out of in 2013, my position in 2013. So Bottle Keeper, we had no employees. What that allowed for is that I could travel anywhere in the world that we had internet. So my wife and I were gone. We were gone for 6 months of the year. At the time, we were in Iceland, and they weren't okay. I didn't know this in advance, or obviously we would have done this differently.
So you're running this business. You can be anywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, we were in Africa. We spent months and months in Europe. We were in Asia. We were all over the place. We didn't have kids yet, so like we had a lot of flexibility. They wouldn't let me come back just for filming, and I didn't know that was going to be a thing. So they pushed us to the next season. Well, by the next season, we were an $8 million a year company. And then they pushed us.
You grew 8 times from you went so 8 times your growth was. So you went from 1 million to 8 million.
Yeah, we went from 140,000, 30,000 or whatever in 14, 15 we did like 1.8, 16 we did 8, and we still had no employees, and like there was no investors. We each put in 10 grand at the beginning. It wasn't an expensive company to start.
Wow.
But
hey
it
Adam,
was
this is
profitable.
Adam Smith. This is our dream, man. So keep
Right.
it. This is
It was. There's a lot. Looking back, luck happens in hindsight. You
Yeah.
rarely know that it happens when it's happening. And you look back and you're like, "Ooh, that was lucky." For us, the timing was lucky because
Yeah.
the summer of 2014 is when Facebook launched their video ad platform. And this
Okay.
product, when you see an image of this product, all you see is water bottle. But the second you see it do this and like a beer bottle go inside, people's brains exploded because you'd never seen a thing do that before. And so
Right.
that was that big inflection point was their video ad platform launched. I shot a video on the beach in front of my house with just like hands come in, unscrew it, bottle goes in.
so it totally went viral. Then that video went viral.
It went nuts, and we could not spend money on ads fast enough. We literally we didn't. I mean, it was in the second year. By the end of the second full year, I mean, we were almost $2 million in sales, and we still weren't paying ourselves. So we were literally reinvesting 100% of everything in more inventory and more ads. We didn't have a team, so we weren't paying a team. Like, we just reinvested everything. But that's how
Is
we
this all
made that
from
big
China
leap.
then? Were you just getting all your fulfillment in China in terms of your product and
The
stuff?
product was being made in China. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you get on the second seat, or you move into season 2 of Shark
Yeah,
Tank?
and they push us again because there were too many beer companies on or something that year. And we don't end up going on until 2018. And we film the week before Father's Day, which was, again, lucky because Father's Day is our second biggest holiday, only second to Christmas. So we were able to go on and open the episode, which we changed like 3 days in advance. I mean, and to be fair, you get to do whatever you want to do. You have a producer that helps you and sort of sets the guardrails. Like, we wanted to get the sharks up out of their seats and create a beach scene and like make them take their shoes off and like come into our environment. And they couldn't, not that they didn't like that, but it was going to like screw up the camera angles and the light. So there's some things we couldn't do, but otherwise you get to do whatever you want to do. So we changed our pitch, and I was able to open it with something, we came out we were asking for $1 million for 5%, which in Shark Tank world is like crazy. And so you get the natural, you better hope you have sales. And we were able to open it with, well, we've done over $1 million in the last week. And over, they just go nuts. And, and over $10 million in the last 12 months. And and it sort of, it was like 55 minutes of mayhem that they cut into 7 minutes, however they want to cut. And in our case, fortunately, they cut it to make us look, like I said earlier, way better than deserved.
Oh, that's interesting. So who were the Sharks? Was it Mark Cuban?
Yeah, it was Mark Cuban, Lori, Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, Barbara, who hated us. I don't know what we looked like. I'm making this up. This isn't a slanderous statement. I feel like we talked about this after the fact and sort of stuck with that. I think we looked like her ex-husband's kids or something because she freaking hated us from the very beginning. She was disgusted with us. And then Alex Rodriguez, which is a whole nother thing. We had a guest judge, and that was one we found out 2 weeks in advance. So we changed our whole pitch we figured if we could get him throwing a baseball on national TV on the show, they 100% would air our episode no matter how it turned out, and they'd probably use it in the promo reels. So we rebuilt our episode to have him throwing a ball at like a lineup of bottle keepers, like a carnival game kind of thing, and it worked perfectly.
I've seen the show. I don't know. I'm going to watch it tonight, but I know I saw the show. Because we do occasionally watch Shark Tank. That's just brilliant. So you go through the show. They chose you or they didn't choose you?
As far as doing a deal on the show?
Yeah. Did you do a deal or did you walk?
We did. Mark went out immediately. He proclaiming you're either the worst business people in the world or you don't need to be here. And then over the course of, again, 53 more minutes of absolute mayhem and offers from everybody except for Barbara, who hated us, we got Lori in for, I don't remember what the deal was at that point, but we ended up getting both Mark and Lori for $1 million for 5%. So we got what we asked for both of them. That deal did not happen in real life, which is most of the time, but there's a lot of reasons for that. Again, we can kind of talk through what happened in our experience, but.
Interesting. So you did a deal, so everybody left, but the deal didn't really happen. Because you said you leave the show and a lot of work happens after you leave the show, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to just appreciate that it's a TV show. And to be fair, like everything you see is real. There are no retakes. There's no stop, let's redo that piece. Like maybe you get to think about it. They shoot 55, however many minutes your episode is a full length shoot of just insanity of them.
It's like Drink Up Live podcast. That's exactly what we do.
It's 4 really smart people and Alex Rodriguez
right.
hammering you with questions, and they're basically asking the same questions over and over and over, just trying to get you to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're bad questions, but it's like you can only be asked the same question 7 different times before you're like, your brain, it just hurts.
Yeah.
So, yes, but if you also think about it from the context of an investment, we were asking for $1 million. They don't know us. We don't know them outside of what you see on TV. So from the point that you leave that, you do the hugs and high fives and everything, the point you leave that, they still have a couple of weeks of taping. They tape the whole season in some shortened period of time, a month or something. And then you go into due diligence in both directions. Now they want to see all your financial stuff and they want to talk about the company. And in the case of Lori, I talked and met with her directly, which was awesome. She was amazing to deal with. In the case of Mark, he had, someone on his team who was slightly less fun. And, you spend months, you can almost as long as you want. You spend months and months and months and months in due diligence. And then you find out 3 weeks before your episode's going to air, if it's going to air. You have no idea if your episode's going to air at all, number one. In our case, we thought it would because, again, we had Alex Rodriguez throwing a ball. We did an epic deal with 2 Sharks. There's no way they're not going to air that episode. No. But that season starts in, November, and it goes through March. So it could air any time in there, and you don't know what it is until a month out.
Wow.
So there's a lot of logistical challenges that come with it.
Wow. So this is a good segue into kind of lessons learned here. In terms of, obviously you're an entrepreneur and it seems like you're a serial entrepreneur because it seems like you do one business, you sell that, or you said you had 7 businesses that failed, which I appreciate that. or more, right? So you do a lot of different things. So a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to be successful. I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and things are going to happen. So you definitely stay into it. I always ask the founder this: is what's the difference between success and failure? Do you know?
I mean, I don't create success around what I do professionally.
Yeah.
My success is built around what I do with my family, and what I do professionally either supports that or it does not. So I guess maybe that's my failure. But I get to control that. You get to control that. We all get to control that.
Yeah, but the reason,
make.
yeah, I love that. So, but the difference between success and failure is that you didn't give up. You kept on going. You just told me you had 7 failures, but you also built a medical device company. You built this like cool brand, Bottle Keepers, where you actually made this, like the mock-up is just brilliant. Your was it your brother-in-law or brother was on the beach and doesn't like to drink his beer warm, and then you did a video and it went viral. And then now, like, so where are you? So you now you have your next company. Is Pantene your current company that you're doing?
Yeah. On that last piece, this is important from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Okay.
It went viral a year after we started it. Which means it failed for 11 and a half months until it succeeded.
That's
Which
really
is a
important.
really important piece. Companies fail when people quit. That just flat out. Now, there's a lot of reasons that people quit. Some of them are out of control and heavily financial and personal, and I understand that. But legitimately, companies fail when people quit. So building durability is really, really, really important, and having the resilience to deal with that stuff is. How did you
talk about that a little bit? How did you build the resilience? You fell for you gotta your wife and she has to be you guys were probably losing your mind, we're not making any money. What are we gonna do? How did you get through that?
We weren't. Well, I mean, one, I had some success prior to the Bottle Keeper thing. My wife had a job. She did very well. We didn't live an insane, extravagant life. I mean, we lived in an amazing place on the beach, but we paid almost for what the place was like nothing. We didn't have kids, so we could. And I am, if it's not apparent, extremely comfortable with risk, and she is comfortable with risk, but not quite as comfortable with risk, and that's good. You don't want that to be the case.
Yeah,
that was how my cousin was. I'm extremely aggressive. He was extremely conservative with respect to operating the business and cash flow and capital and all that stuff. That's good. You don't want to be on the exact same page. You want to be able, to have differing opinions, because generally the meet in the middle is the right place to be.
Wow. So what kept you going though? So it's 11 months of failure, and and all of a sudden you had that one video, and you're off to the races. What were the things that kept you going?
Messing around doing other things. I thought it'd be a good idea to start a VC fund, which is an awful idea because I'm terrible at raising money. Which I've never done it.
See, I was right early on. I'm like, so you did something with VC. I remember hearing that. So.
Yeah. I mean, that lasted about 9 months. That was one of the failure ones. But I walked away from that because Bottle Keeper suddenly was a thing. We went from generating $2,000 a month doing fumbling around to it went to 30 to 60 to 100, and then we sold out a product, and then that just recycled for 3 years. Wow.
And meanwhile, you're traveling all over the world while you're doing it.
Yeah, we were out of the country for 4 to 6 months of the year.
Oh wow! But you're stable at your home now because of the family and all that. So you don't get to travel anymore.
Yeah, I mean we do still travel. I mean we live in Montana now, and we have young kids now. I am starting I do have a tech company now, which we've self-funded 98% of, and which is different than self-funding a consumer product company.
And it's talking. Is that the Pantene?
Slightly more painful.
Is Pantene the tech company?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about. First of all, I want to digress. Sorry, we were talking about 1923. I won't get into the episode, but holy cow, I did watch I'm into episode 5. That just it's blew my mind. By the way. Anyway, so I'm a big 1923 fan. So we were talking about that Montana base. Adam, have you seen 1923?
Nice.
Anyway, so back to the tech company. So one of the reasons we want to talk to you about is this tech company. It's really interesting because if it's true, I can give you all my data from a financial standpoint, and you can kind of tell me exactly where I'm at or where I need to go, right? With this information I can give you with the data feed that you guys were talking about, like you can basically aggregate all that data, spit it back out, and say this is what you need to do.
Inside your accounting system, so let's assume that's the most prolific, which is QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online.
Yeah. Okay.
If you have, as long as the information in that is mostly accurate, I say accurate, and then people are like, well, it's not completely accurate. It's like, okay, well, are you paying yourself your personal rent out of your QuickBooks account or your business account? No. Is it literally just business expenses? You're not personally doing weird things? No. It's like, oh, then I'm sure it's fine. Like you have a bookkeeper, I'm sure it's great. The data inside that system, if you're not using QuickBooks, the data inside your P&L forms the basis for how you need to operate the business, how you need to advertise the business. When you advertise the business, how that advertising needs to perform. All of that lives inside the information in your profit and loss statement. So Pentane, via an API, so like a data connection to your QuickBooks account, will pull the data that it needs to create this foundational understanding of what the business, if your business is an engine, how big the engine is, how many cylinders does it have, what's the state of the spark plugs. Like it literally takes a synopsis of your business to get an understanding of how much fuel that engine needs to operate. And the fuel is your profit. And the profit is driven by your ad spend or driven by the revenue that you generate and how you generate it.
Wow. So it actually could tell me, like I could take all my data, throw it over to you with this API, and they could tell me what my trade spend should be to actually grow my business?
Yeah, I mean, it will, yes. Short answer, yes, plus a bunch of other things. You will go, you will click the connect button, like you're not physically doing anything. You literally click connect QuickBooks, and it says, QuickBooks says, are you okay to connect this? And you click yes, and then it starts doing stuff. And what it will, then you go in and say, you have to identify a goal. This is a thing that, you hear people talking about this in like the frou-frou world of goal setting and all these things. And I think that's great and that's awesome. That's not what I'm talking about. In your business, in order to achieve an outcome, you have to define what the outcome is. So the system makes you define an outcome. You have to say, I want to get to break even. Or I want to generate a 10% net profit margin or a 13% or whatever that is for you. If you put that number in, we can use math and all the data that lives in that P&L to tell you exactly how to accomplish that.
That's amazing. So who would be your client?
The math inside of Pentane is applicable to every company on the planet, big and small. The clientele and business type that we focus on is consumer. And that's really because that's where my most recent experience is. It's where we can be and build systems to be the most helpful. But, 2 weeks ago, we onboarded a $2 million a year landscaping company. So, I mean, and I have aspirations of expanding into services to be able to help, to be able to provide this level of help through the blue collar economy. Because they all have the same challenges and nobody is paying attention to that.
Well, so there's hope for me because I'm in the blue collar economy. So with my my business, but all seriousness, Adam, I see you thinking over there. So Adam's the thinker of the team, and I know he's going to come back with some ideas and questions around this. It's a SaaS. This is software as a service, right? This is like a SaaS solution.
Yep. So I'm two things I have to touch on first. You mentioned it when we were talking, and Sam brought it up when we went live. Nothing warms my soul more when I meet a founder who's got some successful exits, to hear them also say how many times they did not have a successful exit. In your case, 7, right? Nothing frustrates me more than people that won't give me that number. I'm like, I know it exists, right? I know you failed more times than you succeeded, and I want to know what it is. So thank you for that, for being open and honest about that.
For sure.
A. Yeah. B, we've all done it. We've all had work done on the house. I think the last note on, like the last time we had worked on our air conditioner, it was a gentleman who He's probably in his 40s, maybe early 50s. He had a kid with him who was maybe 22, and I said, how's business going? He goes, oh, I'm backed up and stacked up, super busy. And I was like, oh, how big's the company? And he goes, you're looking at it. Oh, oh, what, how long have you been doing this for? And he was like, oh, about 3 months. And then he looked at me like, I haven't been working on air conditioners for 3 months. I've been working on them for 30 years, but I've been owning my own business for 3 months. I was like, no, I got you. I said, what prompted that? He's like, well, company I was working for, the owners made a mistake of telling everybody on the team how much they made, and I went, screw it. I quit the next day and started my own thing, and it's been paying off, right? So, like, A, I applaud folks in that workforce, and B, I think you're spot on in terms of, in addition to CPG, that being another realm where, like, it's just not looked at, but it could be a huge help, right? So, kudos. The question I have is, when you talk about like QuickBooks or maybe integrating other platforms like that, CRMs or ERPs, shit like that, for the groups I work with, and I'm asking this question on behalf of them, none of that exists yet. They are so new, it doesn't exist, period. It might not exist because they haven't been tracking anything. So like, not that they're spending money insanely poorly, but they're just not tracking it effectively, right? Or maybe they're so green that they're looking to start the company, but there's no actual action that has happened yet, right? So for them, is it something where, from a Pentane or from your perspective, it's like, hey, talk to as many people as you can, get as much good feedback as you can, go forward into that dark night, see what happens, and then come talk to us? Or like, what's your feedback for someone like that?
So I think let's separate those into two different buckets.
Sure.
The company that is true pre-revenue startup, they absolutely can create a projected P&L in a spreadsheet.
Okay. Yep, sure.
And pull and import that into Pentane and have a functional system based on those projections.
Okay. Cool.
It can literally be 6 lines in the spreadsheet. Like, if you make $1,000, what do you think your cost of goods are? What do you think your total fixed expenses are? What do you think your variable expenses and things related to sales are? That's it. Like, that could be the whole spreadsheet.
Okay.
So you can do that. And I think people have a tendency to try to rely on perfection. And I think it's really important that you don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Anything is better than nothing.
Yep.
Like, pretending it's not there, literally do anything else. Anything is better than that.
Yeah.
So in the case of the other bucket of they're going and they're doing and they're just not tracking the stuff, I mean, at minimum, just set up, it's like $20 a month, like a QuickBooks Online account, connect your bank account. You can pay a QuickBooks bookkeeper next to nothing, like, again, like $25 a month or something, to just organize the things, and that now you have a functional system.
Yeah. So follow up to that. So again, because it's a lot of the brands that I work with, and I don't right now, I'm not putting together P&Ls for them, but like, for example, I very commonly will create them in Excel. Again, we talked about if-thens and conditional formatting.
Yep.
Fairly simple but slick, right? Production planning tools. So like a little Excel ERP, right? So for folks like that, or anybody, I guess, that are for folks that are that small, my question, I guess, is how does Pentane collect revenue, and what should they be expecting in terms of the cost to work with you all and take advantage of this software?
To make sure I understand that, how does Pentane collect revenue, as in what is Pentane's revenue model, or how does it collect and track their revenue?
The first one.
Okay.
Yep.
We've gone through a number of iterations of pricing. When I started the company 2 years ago, based on what happened in the companies prior to that, I was like, people are going to pay $1 billion for this. Because it totally changed these companies, and it's how could they not pay? I would have paid at BottleKeeper thousands of dollars a month to have this. Clearly, honestly, that's
no.
it.
Well, yeah, but you were in Africa though, hanging out with your wife.
I
So
know.
you
We were
needed.
managing it on these massive, ugly spreadsheets, and it was a freaking. We screwed them up and lost money all the time on those things when you don't enter the data right or you calculate something. So following the subsequent 2 years of learning what to do and how to deal with the customer and what my end goal with this, we've gone the complete opposite. And now it's $99 a month for something that is dramatically more valuable than that, because I want to get as many brands, companies into the system as possible, as quickly as possible, because we learn so much. And we're not taking the data and selling it. Like, that's not a revenue model. I'm not interested in that. There is an opportunity for us to generate revenue in other ways via partnerships and things like that. I just don't want the barrier to entry for a company getting help to be this traditional, expensive monthly SaaS subscription that you forget about, and then you realize 6 months later you've been paying for it the whole time and not using it, which, it happened to us countless times.
Yeah, we were talking about that a couple weeks ago. I have no idea all this stuff. I bought all this like AI software and stuff, and I'm like, I never use them. Like, okay, I need to get rid of that. But it's just it's amazing. For $99 though, you still have to have your bookkeeper. Like for me, so my partner and I, we have Bev Assets. We have a professional accounting firm called RGO, and then they also use an app called Gusto. I don't even know what I think Gusto. It's like I'm an employee of my own company. I get paid on the first. I get a W-2, and I'm like, hey, this is really slick. And we, I swipe my credit card to do something, and this accounting firm keeps us out of trouble. Other than I'm going to have a heck of a K1 hitting my my bank account this April in the next couple weeks. But could we use your services?
Yeah, again, in theoretically, any company on the planet can use that.
Okay.
As long as you have a P&L, there's an import function. We only have it for accounting stuff right now. The primary API we have is QuickBooks Online. We will continue to expand that as we need to. I mean, I already know what the next two are going to need to be based on our existing company base. But if you don't have that, an export of, today's April 2nd, when the March books are closed, you have your accounting team export the March P&L in an Excel format, or just give them a login. You create an account in Pentane, and they just go and update it. They upload it there, and it's in the system. Wow. It takes them 45 seconds.
Yeah,
one time per month.
Yeah, I'd love to explore what that looks like, because we certainly have, so we deal in beverage businesses, so we help. I'm a little bit different than Adam. I mean, we help brands find distribution and customers, and Adam's one of our partners. Like, we'll connect people with Adam because he's the best way to describe, he's an operational expert. Adam, I don't want to, but I mean, he knows, like, from formulation to co-packers to labeling to getting the product through the hole before it goes. I mean, he knows it, and plus he knows distribution as well. So I don't want to do him a disservice, but we partner with Adam on that piece. But all these brands, I'm just thinking off the top of my mind, they're like, I have brands that, one brand I won't name them because it's probably proprietary. It's not proprietary, but they sold 100,000 bottle or cans to Sprouts. And they're going into 500 Sprouts, right? And they're growing leaps and bounds, and they have good investors and stuff like that. But those are some people I think probably could use this service, because as they're trying to figure out, where they got investors behind them, Google and all that. But the point is they can use your service because they can kind of figure out where they want to be. And then I talked to another gentleman today. It's another RTD, and he's like been a CEO, president, founded companies. But he's like, what are your services? Because I want to go into my model and figure out what it's going to cost me. And I'm thinking your model could do a little bit of that work too, right? In other words, kind of figure out where you want to be. Like, okay, if my goal is to grow 10%, SAM is going to cost me $100 a month. That's somewhere on a spreadsheet. Your data is going to go through and capture their cost of goods, cost of services, the whole bit, and say, okay, this is what you need to sell it for. This is how much volume you need to do, or your service needs to be, right? It's gonna your software is gonna give answers.
Yeah, I mean, it will absolutely take in the expenses, both existing and projected. You have the ability to add future projected expenses and see how the math changes. Where this works best is in a business that is at least selling a product online.
Okay.
They can also be selling wholesale, and the system is set up to manage both of those channels separately, but
Okay.
give guidance around the customer acquisition on the direct-to-consumer side to accomplish your net margin goal, while also taking into consideration the B2B revenue and the margins associated to it. Because you can't just look at one without the, I mean, you have to look at the whole company, right? That's a really
Yeah,
important
well, that
piece.
fits well in our business, Adam, I believe, what he's just describing, because we go through wholesalers and we do DTC, right?
Well, that's why I'm yeah. I mean, I'm on the website. I'm going
Oh,
to book
nice.
a demo, right? And the reason I ask the questions I do, and I've got a couple more, but you just answered one of them before I had a chance to, was the homepage of the website for D2C e-commerce brands, and was my question is, a lot of the folks I'm working with right now, for example, are trying to figure out what starting looks like for both D2C and your more traditional distribution model, because at this point they're like, dude, I don't care who buys it as long as someone buys it, right? I'll figure out which one's my better bet later, and we'll spend accordingly. So there's those folks, and then there's also the people that are, again, to Sam's point, like, I hate the word expert, I appreciate it, but I do ops, right? But I call it the give a mouse a cookie paradox, because they'll come to me and they'll be like, hey, how can I make my cost of goods more efficient? I'm like, all right, let me see it, and I run them through my suggestions, right? And then they'll go, hey, that was really useful. What should my sales forecast be? How much money should I spend on advertising? How much? I'm like, guys, ops.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But could you use Adam C's software, Pentane, right? And as a consultant,
It
say,
does.
give me your data, I'll dump it in there. And then basically you could actually almost, I'm not gonna say white label it, but you could actually use his software to actually communicate back to your suppliers those takeaways. I think
Yeah,
that's a
that's
business.
Why do you think I'm going to book a demo, Sam?
If you refresh your page, you might see a modification in that for D2C e-commerce brands.
Can you bring it? Hey, you can share your screen, Adam C. You want to share your screen real quick and show what it
I
looks
just
like?
I just updated the
Okay.
website for you. So,
Okay.
So it's more
Well,
accurate.
so the which I love that. It makes me feel so special. The follow-up.
Real time here, man. We're live, raw, and real. We're updating websites as we go.
So the follow-up I have to that is for oh, that was it. I was like, I lost my train of thought. Are you familiar, Adam, with a group called Startup CPG?
Yes.
Okay.
I heard
do you
about
need-
that. I heard about them recently from somebody that was having a conversation with them. I don't remember if it was a client or a prospect or what.
I bring them up because I would strongly recommend, and I know I try not to bug him, but so the guy that founded Startup CPG he was the former CEO of like Machu Picchu Energy.
Okay.
Left that company. I believe now he works full time with Startup CPG, but there's them. I shouldn't say they're the biggest. They're my favorite in terms of those like Slack or community-based groups. I strongly recommend reaching out to them. Also, groups like SPS, right? God, what am I trying to say? The
Commerce.
EDI. Yeah. The
Yeah, we
EDI
use
integration
them.
folks.
God, EDI was like the worst thing ever.
Yep. Pain in the ass. Yep. But point I'm getting at is, if you haven't already talked to those folks, specifically Startup CPG, like I think they would love to hear from you, because I think everyone, period, that is involved in that community would love to hear about this.
No, that's a great idea.
So
Yeah, we're part of the Hemp Alliance too. That'd be something that I could bring to the Hemp Alliance as well. All those hemp brands, they're like hitting like it's like gold mine right now. It's a treasure trove of opportunity for you, Adam. But you can help all those brands. I mean, it's amazing that they don't probably have a mechanism to really manage it. And what you've created, I guess, we're getting close to wrapping up. We can go a little longer for sure, but maybe what is it that the software or the service really offers a brand, and what are they going to get out of it?
I don't want to share a screen, but I kind of want to share a screen.
You can share
what
if you
you're
want.
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to get is clarity. You're going to get a system that understands your business and the mechanics in your business in ways that are really, really difficult to just wrap your brain around. It literally will tell you when you set that net margin goal, it will tell you exactly what to do. It can't hold your hand. It can't make you fire the people. It can't make you hire the people. It can't, it's not going to restructure your ad content and commentary today. It's not going to do, but it will tell you what to do so you have the guidance to go do it. Like setting ad budgets is one of the hardest things to do, and it's where most companies get in real trouble. Yeah. Because they have a tendency to under budget for advertising because it's just purely risk. And I understand it. It's risk. If you don't know what it needs to do to meet whatever goal you've set, it is just risk. You're throwing spaghetti against the wall. So just getting clarity around that and understanding how, as you change your ad budgets, the performance that needs to happen changes. As your ad spend goes up, your return on ad spend needed to get to your goal comes down every single time. But like knowing where those things intersect is really, really important. And what happens if you are going to do a 10% discount or increase your prices 13%?
So is there a series of questions? So a series of questions when you input the data, there's goals. You obviously got to tell them what your goals are, but there are questions that the system asks you too as you import the data.
I'm just sharing it.
Okay, there you go.
So the Pentane system, there are a number of things. There's your sort of executive dashboard with a boatload of stuff in it. There's the mission control where you say, I want to do a 13% net margin. And it says, great, cut your expenses by this, increase your prices by this.
Wow.
The conversion rate right now is 0.82. It needs to increase to 0.9. So that's a 10% increase. Increase, in the case of this business, increase your ad budget to $144,000 a month at a 4.09 return on ad spend. And that's fine. Those are either ors. So in your guidance system, you can come in here and say, we want to get a 5% net margin in a 30-day period of time. We're going to increase, let's move our ad budget. We want to set our ad budget at $50,000. We now know that it needs to crush a 6.35 return on ad spend in order to get to a 5% net margin in a month. We need to generate 321,000 direct consumer dollars. But if we increase our budget to 60,000, that comes down to 5.3. If we increase our prices 10%, that comes down a little bit more. And by the way, our conversion rate on our website can come down from 0.82 to 0.69, and anything above that is net positive. But we're going to hire a new person. Like you can pull all these levers simultaneously to find what fits and then watch in real time as those things play out.
So this is almost, you can game the system.
It is a little bit like gaming the system, using math with the caveat that as long as you have to set your endpoint, like where you want to be, is it a critical part of the equation. So as long as you do that, I mean, and you can't use the system without doing it, so it is a default part of the system. But there are tracking mechanisms in here that answer questions like, is what we're doing right now, is it good or is it bad? We want to see this trend line increase. This is called contribution margin. You don't need to know what it is. I'm happy to talk about it. You don't need to understand how to calculate it. You just need to know that if whatever you're doing is working, this trend line is increasing. If it's not working, it's decreasing.
I would think if I always talk about this four things. You test it, you build it, you scale it, and you sell it, right? I mean, you can appreciate that being that you're an entrepreneur, right? I would think that if and everybody tells me I'm going to 10x this, I'm going to sell it, I have one brand, they're going to sell it next year in 26. I would think your software would actually be a heck of a story to take to investors. If I'm looking for people to put in or getting someone to sell it, I believe this would be an invaluable tool for them to have. Because if I'm an investor, if I looked at something like that, you're going to be able to build like a history of what's going on. Right or wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a whole other category that we haven't started to work on in our partnership.
Yeah.
Is the investor groups that, I mean, there are so many avenues and things to take this. I mean, one of the things that companies get in trouble with that I'm very sensitive to is that shiny object syndrome, where you end up just sort of running around trying to be everything for everybody. And so we're really focused on a couple of areas inside of brand right now, but deeply appreciate the breadth that the product could expand to.
Yeah, and is it machine learned? I mean, is it machine learning, AI in this stuff, or is it all mathematics?
It's all mathematics right now. I think we talked about this when we met earlier. I'm very reticent to just plug an AI into this and call it an AI. One,
Yeah.
it's really bad at math. AI is not good at math right now. So it can't be part of our development cycle, it can't be part of most of our development cycle because of the level of math that exists in the system. But I also know that because of the revenue and advertising and even expense information that will exist in a single account, there will be opportunities to leverage AI to go in and pull interesting learnings from those things. And we will build that when it makes sense for us to do it. But yeah, I'm not a just plug in an AI and call it an AI thing.
So how do people find you? How do they find you?
You can find Pentane at pentane.com, pentane.com.
All right.
From my nerddom, if you remember from college, Adam, if you took any chemistry, pentane is an alkane, like octane, propane, methane. Nope. Okay.
No, I like I said,
okay.
no chemistry in well, I take it back. I did take one chemistry class.
Oh, did we lose? I think we lost. I think we lost Adam.
Class in. Oh shit! You guys
No,
hear
you're
me?
back. No, you're good.
You're back.
Hello? Okay. I studied abroad for a year in the UK, and I took a chemistry class, and this woman had a real deep, like southern British accent, and it's the first time in my life I'd ever heard it. So between that and my natural, predisposition toward not understanding chemistry, I passed with a D and never thought about it again. Yep.
Awesome.
But no, for me, and I'll end with this, and I'll let you guys wrap up. But yeah, pentane.com. I can say it works because I just booked a demo for the 15th, so we're going to talk again.
Oh, amazing! That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think I have to book it. Now I'm feeling competitive, so I'm going to book a demo as well. And
I like these kinds of competitions.
I believe we have a lot of clients. We obviously have partnership companies. Adam, I think I told you about that. Adam C. Happy to include you in that because we certainly like to bring solutions to our partners, and something is invaluable that people can use. Thank you so much. First of all, I learned a couple of things. One is things, as Adam said, thanks for sharing your failures, because so many people think I'm just going to be an entrepreneur, make millions of dollars, and they don't know that you have more failures than successes. We all see the videos of, Michael Jordan and company and Roger Federer. They all fell more than they succeed. So I really do appreciate that, and I do appreciate that you fell for 11 months out of the 12 months before your brand actually hit, and people really need to. Hear that you got to stay in. I always say it is the difference between success and failure is really not giving up. And that's why I love to talk to people like you. And we really do appreciate having you on. But I want to give you the floor to have some closing comments that you would like to leave to everybody here.
Yeah, to be clear, we failed 11 out of 12 months for a decade. I mean that very seriously. I like that you guys enjoy talking about failure. I think it is so much more important to talk about the hard stuff than the easy stuff. So I spend a lot more time doing it. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, I mean, look, in the big scheme, if you have an idea and you're thinking about going and do something, don't let analysis get in the way of action. Just start doing something. You will learn from it. You will evolve from it. And, if anything, if it doesn't work, you learned a new task, you learned a new trick, you learned a new skill, and that will become applicable at something later that you can't even imagine. So literally just do something. Do anything.
Wow, just hit go, right? Just go.
Yeah, just go.
Do something. I've been doing that for 24 months, so I really appreciate that, because I've jumped off it's Josh Wan, I'll quote him. He goes, I asked him, I said, what is it like to be an entrepreneur? He said, if you're willing to play in the mud, it's just fine, but you got to be willing to play in the mud. And then he'll use another statement, is he ready to dive off the deep end with me? Yeah. And it's like with no safety net. You're just like, okay, and there's crocodiles and alligators down below, but I've been doing it. So
as you, being ready to eat glass. that's the one I forgot.
Oh, eat glass. Yeah, I had some glass today, but it was really good glass. It was kind of soft and the whole bit. So, but it's good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'll make sure that I'll include your contact information when we actually publish the podcast. And thanks for those that stopped by today to watch this live.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And then it should. There you go. So we did this live a few weeks ago with Danielle Goss, who owns a company called Cool Mox.